found on the side of the road. Ow. It's called a Bunya Nut. It's an Australian native bush food and I've never tried it before. Blink, 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 blink. Inside of these little pines, they have a nut. Oh! And this bit is edible. So today I'm going to process and try these for the first time. Ow. It's spiky. Its Latin name is... I wrote it on the screen. This is actually a relatively small cone. Ow. They get to up to 10 kilos large and fall from great heights from the ceiling. No, from the top of the tree. So you really wouldn't want this to hit you on the head. Ow. Bunya pines can get up to 35 to 45 meters in height and they can live for up to 600 years. That is a long time and an ancient tree. I'm guessing the one down the road was this younger, smaller one. Ow. They're also gluten-free. They're going to be the next superfood. And the Indigenous people of Australia have been eating these for as long as they lived here, which is a really, 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 really long time. I am just an ignorant white girl. I am trying this for the first time and I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I make these videos. I'm definitely not the best qualified person to talk about these, but I am really excited about it. Oh! That's why we're going on an exploratory testing journey. So we've got one of these trees in a pot over there waiting to be planted. It's one of the constantly maybe dying ones that I referenced in a previous video. So this is actually a really good try before you buy experience for us because we just discovered that someone's got a tree down on the road and they were just sort of fallen all over the road. So we picked up a couple to give it a go. As you can see, they are these large pine cones that have these sort of like spiral inner bits. Without further ado, how do we process these? Pull them apart and pull this inner nut bit out. And this is actually the bit I thought was going to be difficult, but it's really not. These have been sitting for a while, which is why they've sort of dried out a little bit. But then you throw this whole husk bit away and then just keep the nut. I did one of these yesterday. The rest of the cones, because they've been sitting for so long, have actually sort of exploded and disintegrated anyway. But some of these don't actually have nuts in them. They don't have the round bit in them. It's pretty obvious. So you don't need to bother trying to open those. Like there is a little sort of husk in there, but it's not a fully developed nut. So you just throw those away. But everything that has an actual nut in it, you got to go through, pull all of these apart and collect all the nuts. So the one I did yesterday, I got a fair few nuts out of, but like the waste to actual nut ratio is fairly high. I feel like the thing with a lot of Australian bush foods is like they say it's edible, but then when you go to do it, it's like you get the big seed and a really small bit of flesh, and like the work that you have to do to actually get the amount of food out of it is very like high effort, low reward. But this looks like a much more substantial meal to me. Once you've got all your nuts, there's, oh my God, stop waving your nuts around. Ow, I keep spiking myself on this. So once you've removed all the nuts from the husks, throw the husks away. We need to crack the shells of these. A hammer just kind of crushed them and was quite unpredictable. I did try multi-grips, which worked pretty well. That just sort of cracks the end of them, but I did kind of feel like I was crushing them. It's really important to crack the shells at least a little bit for roasting them, otherwise apparently they can explode. The best method I found just then when I did it was actually these, I believe it's a conduit cutting device. So, and this one actually ratchets, so it made it quite easy to sort of get through the tough outer shell, and then it cuts through it. And this is actually going to cut them in half. I'm trying two methods today. I'm going to be boiling half of them and roasting the other half. The internet said that roasting had a better flavor. Cutting them in half like this was a tip I found from an Indigenous creator who was showing how to boil them. I left some just cracked just to see how easy they are to get out of the shells at the other end after I've roasted them. But I'm just boiling the ones I've cut in half, and then the roasted ones I've got some that are cut in half and some that are just cracked. So you put them in a pot of salted boiling water for 30 minutes or in the oven at 200 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. And they should be almost done. I need to go wash these before Dad finds out. I'm using his plumbing tools for food. Whoops! Oh, my timer's going off. Let's go try them. Okay, these are the boiled ones. I already like this cutting them in half method because they've come completely out of their shells. So that's easy. There's no extra like shucking required. Gone a little discolored. I think maybe that's because there's some tannins in the shells. Here goes taste test. That tastes like a lot. It's definitely like absorbed a bit of the salt from the water, but it tastes very earthy and it's a very soft sort of meaty texture. I like it. I like it a lot. A lot of people have compared the taste of these to chestnuts. I think I've only ever eaten chestnuts once a very long time ago in Europe, so I can't tell you that myself. They're not crunchy. It's like a brown rice kind of chew and texture, but a little more solid than brown rice. I baked cookies! That also comes out of its shell very easily. Ooh, these ones are a lot hotter. I'm about to burn my mouth. It has gotten very dry on top, which I guess is a downside to cutting them in half. Like, I put some of them face down and some of them face up. The ones I cut in half have dried out a lot in the oven. I'm gonna have to crack into one of these. You can really taste the flavor of these just by themselves because there's no salt added or anything added to this. Damn, they're really good, guys. Effort to meatiness reward, 100% would do again. This is great. Okay, I'm gonna try and get into one of these and see if it's a little less dry. Watch me burn my fingers on this one. Okay, so the shell is a lot less squishy than it was before. It's like crunchy now, which maybe that will help me get the actual nut out of it. Okay, yeah. So I see why you just crack them to put them in the oven and then you can shell them later. Oh, wow, look at that. I'm not a makeup influencer. Burning my fingers. I don't want to put it in my mouth yet. Ah! 2-second rule. Wow, this is premium content. Okay, oven ones take a longer time to cool down, guys. Yeah, it's less dry than the ones I cut in half, but slightly more effort to shell. So I probably wouldn't cut them in half again if roasting them, but definitely cutting them in half works a treat for boiling them because they just pop right out of their shells. Or maybe I'll try them at like a lower temperature next time. I am glad I cut the smaller ones in half though, because some of them don't actually have anything in the middle of them. Even if the nut looks like it's reasonably big, there's actually just like emptiness in the middle. Why didn't I think of this earlier? This is a much better way of holding them. I think they're very tasty, very delicious. There's a lot of nut to effort ratio, which is good. I like that for an Aussie bush food. There's not many Aussie bush foods that are like that, so it's a big tick in my book. Don't like how spiky they are, but this works quite well. And overall, a really pleasant flavor. They're gonna soak up the flavors of whatever dish you put them in, so I think these are gonna go really well in like soups and stews and curries. They might be a source of protein since they're a nut, so like, bonus points. I'm really gonna have to get my bunya nut in the ground. That's the outcome of this video. These actually take about 30 years to start fruiting. So if we'd planted it when I was born, we might be getting nuts off it now. So it is a long-term investment. Permaculture's a long game. I'm gonna have to think very carefully about where it goes because you wouldn't want a 10-kilo one of these falling from a tree and hitting you in the head. Ow. Now I just have to deal with the rest of the, oh no, the whole thing's, well, I guess I've started on the next one. Let me know in the comments if you've tried bunya nuts before, if you have a specific way that you like to eat them or a better way of preparing them. Like I was just experimenting with a few different methods I found on the internet. What's your favorite go-to method? Let me know. I know this is very Australian specific, but hey, that's what we were doing this week. I'll see you next time. Subscribe? It's spiky. Ow, 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 ow. Damn it. Ow. Oh no, it fell apart. Ow, ow, ow.